Good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to call this meeting out of recess. Today is Wednesday, the 28th of 2024. Sorry. What did I say? October. All right, let me start that off again. Today is February the 28th of 2024. Land acknowledgement. I'd like to begin by acknowledging that we're meeting on the traditional lands of Acadia First Nation, part of Mi'kma'ki, the ancestral territory of the Mi'kmaq people. Could we all rise for the playing of O Canada? We're actually singing. Councillor Lauren Cushion, if you wouldn't start us off, please. Thank you very much, everyone. My apologies for making that mistake on the date today, but my mind's moving forward to the municipal elections held in October. So just remember that's a very short time away. Moving on, the approval of the agenda. Is there any additions or deletions to the agenda? If not, I'd entertain a motion to approve the agenda as circulated. Moved by Councillor Derkey, seconded by Councillor Lauren Cushion. Motion on the floor to approve the agenda as circulated. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carried unanimously. Item number 7. If there's any declarations of conflict of interest, please notify me and I'll make sure that your name is recorded in the meeting minutes. Item number 8, recommendation as a municipal heritage property owner hearing. I guess the first question I have to ask, is there any objections via mail?
No, we did not receive any.
Is there any objections of council members? Is there any objections in the public audience? Hearing none, I'd entertain a motion to approve. Moved by Councillor Daniel Allen. Do I have a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Lauren Cushion. A motion on the floor to approve. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried unanimously. Item number 9, approval of the minutes. You all have that in your package. What is council's pleasure? Councillor Patty Derkey, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll make a motion that we approve the minutes as presented.
A motion on the floor. Do I have a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Daniel Allen. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried unanimously. Item number 10, old business. There's nothing under old business. Item number 11, 11.1, recommendations from the Committee of the Whole. 11.1.1, Western Counties Regional Library request. Yeah, I understand that people are trying to get their documents open. I have it in paper, and computers ain't as fast as paper, apparently.
Municipality District of Yarmouth increased funding by, for 1 year by 5%, amounting to $4,000, and further that the district to the province supporting the Western Regional Counties, the Western Counties Regional Library request for immediate review of the funding formula.
Okay, a motion on the floor. Do I have a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Daniel Allen. Any discussion on that? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried unanimously. Item 11.1.2, tourism industry excited for more ferry sailings. You all have that in your package. What is council's pleasure? Deputy Warden Trevor Cunningham.
So, Mr. Chair, we move this forward from Committee of the Whole, but I've looked at the wording of the motion, and I'm going to make the motion with just some subtle changes. The intent's really not much different in terms of it's a good news story. It's just who we might write and what we might say. So I'm going to move that the municipality of District of Yarmouth send correspondence to Minister Maslin to acknowledge Bay Ferry's efforts to add sailing days to the CAT and reaffirm the importance of the service to a growing province, and that we simply CC MLA Churchill and Bay Ferries.
Okay, a motion on the floor, seconded by Councillor Patty Durkee. Any discussion on that motion? Hearing none, question being called. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried unanimously. Item 11.1.3, the draft capital investment plan. Deputy Warden.
Right, I'll move that the municipality district of Yarmouth approve the capital investment plan as presented at the Committee of the Whole.
Okay, a motion on the floor. Do I have a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Lauren Cushing. Any discussion on that motion on the floor? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carried unanimously. Item 11.1.4, draft private road and right-of-way signs policy procedure, P-088-11. Councillor Sherry Hurlbert.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll make the motion that the municipality of the District of Yarmouth approve the revisions to the private roads and right-of-way sign policy and procedure P-088-11.
Motion on the floor. Do I have a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Daniel Allen. Discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carried unanimously. Item 11.1.5, the draft low-income exemption policy L-068-09. Councillor Patty Durkee.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to make a motion that we approve the amendments to the low-income exemption policy L-068-09.
Motion on the floor. Do I have a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Daniel Allen. Discussion on that? Councillor Durkee, your mic is still on. You still have the floor if you wish to use it. Hearing no discussion, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carried unanimously. Item 11.1.6, joining communities in bloom. Councillor Patty Durkee.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would like to make a motion that we ask staff to research what implications are to the municipality by participating in Communities in Bloom.
Okay, a motion on the floor. Do I have a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Sherry Hurlbert. Is there any discussion on the motion on the floor? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carried unanimously. Item 11.1.7, presentation from Property Valuation Services. Councillor Patty Durkee.
I'm on a roll. I'd like to make a motion that the municipality of the District of Yarmouth request a presentation from Property Valuation Services Corporation to explain the process of assessment and outlining how values are calculated at a future committee of the whole meeting.
Okay, a motion on the floor. Do I have a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Daniel Allen. Discussion on that. I want to bring up one thing. I do believe when we were speaking in the committee of the whole that I brought up the point that I do believe that this presentation may take longer than our standard presentation time, and I think that was only appropriate when they're booked that we dedicate that time for them, because I'm sure there's going to be lots of questions from not only me, but from members of my council. So just be aware that when this comes at a future date, that this may be the only presentation that we have on that committee of the whole coming up. Other than that, is there any more discussion on the motion on the floor? Councillor Durkee, you still have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Under the present circumstances with the increase in values, I think it's really, really important for our community to understand the pattern that has happened over the past few years and possibly the predictions for the future and how that relates to the amount of taxes that people are paying. I know it's a topic of conversation in our community. Actually, it's not just our community, it's across Nova Scotia. So I think this would be highly valuable.
Any more discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carried unanimously. Item 11.1.8, appointment to the Planning Advisory Committee. Councillor Allen.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to make a motion that the municipality for the District of Yarmouth appoint Alex Graham to the Planning Advisory Committee for a term of 2 years.
Okay, a motion on the floor. Do I have a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Lauren Cushion. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carried unanimously. Item 11.1.9, appointment to the Accessibility Advisory Committee. Councillor Daniel Allen.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to make a motion that the municipality for the District of Yarmouth appoint Jenny McNeil to the Accessibility Advisory Committee for a term of 4 years.
Okay, a motion on the floor. Do I have a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Sherry Hurlbert. Discussion? I see one microphone on. Councillor Hurlbert, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just confirming the correct spelling of Ms. McNeil's last name. I'm not sure if that, yeah, just double check just to make sure that that could be the correct spelling, but I've never seen it spelled that way before, but doesn't mean it's not right.
Don't ask me to do any spelling is all I have to say. Any more discussion on the motion on the floor? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carried unanimously. Item 11.1.10, letter to EHS re the medical first responder. I have to declare a conflict in this item, and the second item in regards to first responders, where I'm part of the fire department, and also where the second one is where I'm part of the Carleton Fire Department. I have to declare a conflict in that, so Deputy Warden, could you please take over the meeting for those two items which I declared a conflict?
Okay, so 11.1.10, letter to EHS re medical first responders. And the warden declared a conflict. What's the pleasure of council?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll make a motion that the municipality of District of Yarmouth write a letter to Emergency Health Services requesting an amendment to the medical first responder sponsorship form to include a requirement for a resolution of council.
Thank you, Councillor Herbert. Do we have a seconder? We got a seconder in Councillor Daniel Allen. Any discussion, questions?
I just, maybe
sorry, yeah.
when we get to the second one, we can just have a little bit of discussion about what this is all about and how it entails, maybe. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. So there, I'm seeing no additional comment. All those in favor signify by saying aye. All those opposed? Motion carried. Thank you, Council. Okay, and 11.1.11, medical first responder sponsorship for Carleton Fire Department. I'll turn to our CEO for a little narrative about how the two work hand in hand, how the two
Sure.
divisions work.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So the Medical First Responder Program is not a new program in Nova Scotia. It's been around for decades, and there are many volunteer fire departments in Nova Scotia that participate in the voluntary program. So essentially, it's an additional service that volunteer firefighters can be trained to deliver to support people who have sustained an injury until emergency health services can arrive on the scene. The goal is to stabilize a patient, and the Medical First Responder Program does save lives in Nova Scotia. So the Carleton Fire Department would like to add that level of service to what they deliver to their community, and they can receive some support from Emergency Health Services Nova Scotia to receive the training, receive some equipment, and to become kind of part of their network and part of their standard operating procedures. And in order to do that, because fire service is part of the municipal jurisdiction under the Municipal Government Act, there's a requirement for municipal council to be involved and for some paperwork to be signed.
Thank you, Madam CEO. And Councillor Herbert.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll make a motion that the municipality of District of Yarmouth approve the medical first responder sponsorship for the Carleton Fire Department.
Okay, we've got a second, and Councillor Cushing. Any additional comment, conversation, questions? Yes, Councillor Herbert.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think that, the taking on the responsibility of going through the training and the level of responsibility to be a first responder, I commend the Carleton Fire Department for doing this. I know, that there are a variety of fire departments throughout our area, but also in the province that have undertaken this. So I just want to say thank you to them. Not only will they serve their area, they can, serve others, and I see the value in that, and I just want to thank them publicly for taking this on. Huge task.
Thank you, Councillor Herbert, and they're most deserving of that praise, so thank you for making those comments. Councillor Allen.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I agree with Councillor Herbert. Can't say thank you enough. We all know there was a tragic tragedy in our community on the weekend, and not that this may have changed the outcome, but hopefully, some of our other fire departments will take this up, and it may save a life at some point down the road. So this is a great move forward for our community. Thank you.
I agree. Thank you, Councillor Allen. Any further discussion, conversation? We've got a mover and seconder on the books. Yeah. Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. And I'll turn the chair back over to our warden, Warden Cunningham.
Thank you very much, Deputy Warden Cunningham. Almost seems like watching an old Bob Newhart show. Hi, I'm Daryl, and my other brother Daryl. No relation, I'm sorry. It just cracks me up every once in a while when I hear that. Oh, if you can't have fun what you're doing, don't even do it at all, is what I say. All right, item 11.2, second reading of the marketing levy bylaw M-628-23. Councillor Patty Durkee.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to make a motion that the municipality of the District of Yarmouth pass a second reading of the marketing levy bylaw M-628-23.
Excuse me, motion on the floor, do I have a seconder? Seconded by Deputy Warden Trevor Cunningham. Any discussion on that motion on the floor? Councillor Durkee, you still have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, I just want to thank Neil McKenzie and the team at Yarmouth and Acadian Shores, as well as the committee that was set up to establish the change in the marketing levy to bring, to, I guess, go along with the changes from the province, that they have left it to the municipalities to make decisions on levy bylaws. Just to let you know, the town of Yarmouth has already passed their second reading as well. But I do have a question through you, Mr. Chair, to our CAO. Because we already had the marketing levy bylaw, does this need to go to a public hearing, or because it's an amendment, does it just get accepted? And
So it's our understanding that no public hearing was required,
Okay.
and this does repeal and replace the previous bylaw that we had on the books.
thank you very much, appreciate that.
Any more discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carried unanimously. Item 11.3, first reading of the solid waste bylaw S-088-24.
So I can speak to that, Mr. Chair, maybe.
Yes, go ahead, Madam CEO.
Sure. So there's a very small amendment being proposed for council in the bylaw, and it's to bring into effect the fact that as of April 1st, there'll be no more black bags allowed unless you participate in the variance program with Waste Check. So the change in the language is minimal. I'm just looking for it right now.
I'm looking for it as well.
Okay, it's section 614.18 on page 20, and you'll see highlighted and struck through the language that provided for the one black bag.
So what is council's pleasure? Do you wish to move first reading? And I do have a process question to the CEO. Provided council does pass the first reading, does this go to a public hearing, or does this notified? How
There's
does
a
that work?
requirement to advertise second reading. There has to be 14 clear days in the advertisement, and then it can go to second reading.
Correct, okay. Deputy Warden?
So I'll move first reading of the solid waste resource collection and disposal bylaw S-088-24 is amended.
Okay, a motion on the floor. Do I have a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Patty Durkee. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carried unanimously. Moving on, item number 12, correspondence for action. There is none. 12, 12.2, there is 3 pieces of information for your information. Any comments? Councillor Allen?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I see for information, we had wrote a letter inquiring about the Yarmouth Hospital Emergency Department and the expansion that was announced in 2020. And he wrote, I see Councillor, or Honorable Colton LeBlanc wrote us back and said when he has any more information, he would be in contact with us. And hopefully everyone in the community heard this week that the announcement was made at the Yarmouth Hospital that plans for the expansion are moving ahead, and also that they're opening up, I don't want to speak out of turn, but I know they're going to be opening up rooms at Yarmouth Heights for long-term care. So our letter might have been a little a little early. I'm glad we sent it, but I think that's great news for our community. I know we don't need to send Colton a letter, but very appreciative that they're acting on this.
Yeah, you got to remember too that this letter was dated February the 7th, so it was a little while ago. Councillor Patty Durkee.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to comment on the municipal involvement in vulnerable persons registry, and that I'm actually disappointed that REMO is not prepared to take that on at this point, and I'm wondering maybe at some point in the future, if it doesn't become a provincial initiative, if possible, that they would reconsider. I just think it's really important, considering the storms that we've been having, and one tonight, that those people who are more vulnerable don't get first attention, or should be getting more attention than what they do to make sure that they're safe. So again, I'll just repeat that I hope that this is something that they'd consider in the future if the province does not decide to mandatory registry. Thank you.
Thank you very much. No more comments on the correspondence for information. Item number 13, reports. Item 13.1, the CEO's report. As always, that report is pretty comprehensive, and I suggest that anyone that's watching online, please go through that. I think it's 21 pages. So it's quite an in-depth report of different things that motions that council's made, some of the projects that are going on, and there's a lot of information in there. So if you really want to find out what's going on in the Municipality District of Yarmouth, I highly suggest if you have 15, 20 minutes to read through that report. Councillor Hurlbert.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll just say ditto, because that's exactly what I was going to say. This is where people need to go if they want that comprehensive report of what we're doing. And I will make the motion that we accept the report as presented.
A motion on the floor. Do I have a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Daniel Allen. Any more discussion on that report? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carried unanimously. Item 13.2, my report. My report was in there to referring everyone to the CAO's report, some things that's going on in the community, like the announcement at the hospital. But there is one thing that I want to bring up tonight. It's in regards to dirt roads. As we all know, we're having a little bit of warm spell going on in our community right now, and there's a lot of frost coming out of the ground. So I highly suggest, if you can avoid the dirt gravel roads in the Municipality District of Yarmouth or anywhere across the province, I strongly urge you that you try to find an alternate route to go through there. As a lot of people know, that most of the roads in the Municipality District of Yarmouth are owned by the province. And I'm going to shout out a number if something happens in regards to the province. Just hold on. There's a phone number that you can call to report directly to the Department of Transportation, or what it's known as now is Department of Public Public Works and Infrastructure. And that phone number, and I urge everyone to call, is 1-844-696-7737. That is by far the best way that you can report an issue with your road, whether it's a dirt road, trees across the road, plug culverts, anything that's due in the purview of the provincial roads. I urge everyone, once again, to call this number, 1-844-696-7737. What they'll do is they'll give you a ticket number, so that ticket number that you will be given is a reference number, so if something that you called about was not fixed, you can call back that number and refer to that ticket number that you get. You can also email tir-occ@novascotia.ca is another way that you can get this ticket number and report issues with provincial roads. As much as I would personally like to help, most of the roads in the municipality district of Yarmouth are not owned by the municipality, they're owned by the province. So that's just one thing I wanted to point out, because as we know, there's lots of pictures on Facebook as I speak of cars being stuck in the road and it looks like cement all around them. And another thing is the provincial roads are going to be closed to heavy traffic in 3 days from today. So that would be Saturday. So that's my report on top of what I wrote there. Any more comments? Hearing none, we'll move on to reports. Item 13.3, legal entity reports from committees. Any verbal reports? Councillor Patty Durkee.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just to let you know that the Mariner Center Expansion Board has met. Things are moving forward quickly. I have to give kudos to the whole team that's working on it. If there's an issue, they call a meeting, we discuss it, done, move on. The fundraising team is doing a fantastic job, and we just look for continued success in the way this has been moving forward.
Thank you very much. Have any more, Councillor Durkee?
No.
Any more verbal reports on any of those committees? Seeing none, moving on to 13.4. I am so sorry, Councillor Hurlbert.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Not a report as such, but just following up to what our CAO talked about, waste check, and there will be, effective April 1, a change that garbage has to go in a clear bag. There are defined rules and guidelines there. You can call Waste Check at 1-800-569-0039. You can visit their website, wastecheck.com. There is an exception, but you still have to call Waste Check. You can apply to them for a privacy bag, which is a black bag that you will be allowed to have, and it's recorded with them. But I encourage everyone to ensure that they are following these guidelines as of April 1. It's kind of good to get in the habit of it right now.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Councillor Durkee.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just to let you know that there was a Yarmouth and Acadian Shores Tourism Association meeting not that long ago, and as always, they are working extremely hard to market our area. They're really appreciative of the fact that we approved the marketing bylaw, the new marketing bylaw that went smoothly, and they are looking at a source to help with those people who are having Airbnbs and VRBO and whatever, to be able to easily pay via computer for any monies that have been collected. Again, we're all happy about the Cap Ferry, and in discussions with people who are getting involved in anything tourism related, it's really important for us to continue to encourage the government to support the ferry, the Nova Scotia ferry. It's not a Yarmouth ferry. Nova Scotia ferry that docks in Yarmouth, and I think that was about it for now.
Thank you. Any more reports under legal entities? Item 13.4, advisory committees. Deputy Warden?
Yes, the next meeting of the Planning Advisory Committee will be Tuesday, March 26, 24. The most recent one was canceled because we weren't able to achieve a quorum. and the audit committee will be appointing a new member this evening. And Mr. Chair, I'm just wondering if we want to move those, I didn't think of this earlier on, the in-camera recommendations up to just after these reports, and just either before or after the, I guess maybe before the public comments, to get that piece of business done.
That would come actually just right of the, after the I could move that ahead, yeah.
Yeah, just to make.
Yeah,
it
I can move that ahead before I open up.
Yeah.
So is there any more reports of advisory? Councillor Allen?
I'll just sneak a little tidbit in on the Mariner Center Authority Board. We did have a meeting last week. Mariners Center, Mariners on Main is very busy. Both buildings are very busy, but I do believe we are currently advertising we have a vacant seat on the Mariner Center Management Authority Board. I don't know what date or has it closed?
I'm not even sure that the advertisement is officially out yet. Is it out?
Yeah.
Did it hit the wires?
Yes,
Yep.
it is. It
Yep.
is. I've seen it. So,
Okay.
yeah. And I think we've moved away from just having regional seats now, and I think anyone can apply for the seats.
Anyone who's a resident of Yarmouth
Everyone
County.
who's a resident of Yarmouth County. So, looking forward to getting some people to take some interest in the Mariner Center. As we have a new project coming, it's going to be quite exciting moving forward. So hopefully we'll get some applicants and fill that seat.
Thank you very much. Any more advisory? 13.5, ad hoc. None. What I'm suggesting, and this was not moved, before we open up do the public comments, the in-camera recommendations, there is a couple in there that one of them was pertaining to an appointment on one of our committees. So Deputy Warden, if you wouldn't mind.
I'll move the Municipality District of Yarmouth appoint Carol Hill Bojarski to the Audit Committee.
Okay, a motion on the floor. Do I have a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Lauren Cushion. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carried unanimously. There was one more motion that I do believe that come from in camera. Councillor Sherry Hurlbert.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll make a motion that the municipality of District of Yarmouth accept the sum of money equivalent to 5% market value on file 9974 from Parkland Dedication.
Okay, a motion on the floor. Do I have a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Cushion. Any discussion on that motion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carried unanimously. All right, item number 14, public comments. Our recording secretary Jenny's gone up to get the list of names. I want to remind everyone that each citizen is going to be allotted 3 minutes to speak. Comments be within the purview of the municipal government. Comments be directed to the whole of council and not point out any individual councillors or staff. That questions be directed, if you have any questions, that you direct them through written correspondence. I will not be answering any questions tonight, nor will other councillors or staff. We have with us tonight Miss Betty Cox. You're the first one on. What I'm going to ask you to do, Betty, is just hit the red button on the microphone there. I got to get some sort of timer going here. I'm not sitting here going on Facebook or anything like that, just sitting there. There we go. So anyway, I'll turn your microphone on. And
First-
Betty, you have the floor.
First off, I'd like to say thanks, add my thanks to those that have already approached you and said thank you for giving the public an opportunity to speak. Now, the reason for my comment, we recently had 160-plus pages of bylaws passed into law for this area, and many citizens have numerous issues with these bylaws, but we've been told it's a living document. And in that spirit, I'm submitting a revision to Section 4.2, namely the inspection and right of entry into and upon a person's property. This section is severely flawed, and it only lists half of Section 267 of the Municipal Government Act. We actually have the right to say no. The municipality then has the right to go before a judge, request a warrant for entry, but you did not include this information in the bylaw. The average law-abiding citizen is not going to be searching through multiple levels of law in order to understand their rights. As our representatives, it is incumbent upon you, the council, to ensure the citizens know all and not only parts of the laws which affect them. So I've added the other half of the provincial law. I noticed that the clause "or authorized agent of the development officer" snuck back in. It had been removed and then it came back in, has been reintroduced. Are you planning so many entries into people's homes that our duly hired and I would assume licensed development officer cannot manage this task? At no point does either the municipal act or the local bylaw indicate that entry into a person's home or business must be for a reasonable and demonstrable cause. So I've added that clause. This edition will not need permission from other levels of government, but it will indicate your higher regard for the rights of the citizens that you represent. The bylaw makes reference to a 24-hour notice, but there is no reasonable plan to execute this in a manner which ensures that the property owner actually receives that notice. So I've added a requirement that the notice must be by registered document where receipt of such notice is recorded. The bylaw also makes no allowance for the dwelling being unoccupied. If a person is away for an extended visit with family, or if it happens to be one of our many snowbirds, your bylaw makes no restrictions on forcibly entering an empty property. Even owners of abandoned buildings should expect a measure of respect, so I have added the requirement that the development officer be required to make all reasonable effort to contact the owner of any building before entering. Here's a package for you for next month's deliberations at the Committee of the Whole. It is the amended bylaw. It's also the existing bylaw, and it is the relevant sections of the Municipalities Act 267. You can distribute them, everybody can read them, and so on.
Thank you very much, Betty. 3 minutes on the nose. The second one up would be Linda Mullen.
I guess mine is a comment on the confines of our comments, I guess. Could label it that way. I wrote it down so I wouldn't forget anything. Down. Okay. Having followed council meetings for over a year now, it's become apparent that most presentations to council are requests for funding. I and others present simply request that council hear our words. Last council meeting, we were reminded that our comments should be confined to issues limited to the purview of municipal council. However, just because an issue is not within council's purview does not mean council can do nothing. Take, for example, the ferries. Those issues were not within council's purview, yet council lobbied provincial government on behalf of the citizens. Some of the issues we bring before council are in the hopes that council will intercede on our behalf. There is always something we can do. Lower levels of government cannot sit idly by while upper levels of government issue mandates that are detrimental to the citizens. You were elected to be our voice to the provincial government. What we are seeing basically is a one-way pipeline via the Federation of Municipalities from the provincial government to municipal governments, rather than the reverse. There are a number of very distressing concerns coming down from the federal government that municipal councils working together should be telling the provincial government to push back against some of these federal mandates. Presently, our federal government seems to be under the direction of bodies like the UN and the WEF. I know we were advised not to mention these entities. However, this is presently impacting our lives and our future. It is imperative that municipal councils do whatever is possible to address this. Presently, we have the very racist DEI initiative, the push toward net zero to address the non-existent crisis, digital ID, and digital currencies. Even telling us what we can and cannot do with our land is part of the UN Sustainable Development Goals. We are looking at 15-minute so-called smart cities. These are all UN WEF driven. Will you tell your grandchildren you did nothing because it wasn't within your purview? You need to do whatever it takes to lobby the provincial government to fight back, much like what Alberta is doing. Presently, we have taxation without representation. History has demonstrated that that does not turn out well. It is hoped you will become part of the solution.
I was just going to ask you to wrap it up. Thank you very much, Linda.
Yeah.
There's a third thing here, but it's in regards to trespassing. I don't know if that's under Mr. Mullen, Dale Mullen? No. There was a third, there's actually 4 things here.
The one above mine is not.
It says trespassing on my property, was that? I don't know. No name. All right, Mr. Dale Mullen.
Thank you, Council, for allowing us this opportunity to present our concerns. Mine are very similar, I guess, to Linda's, so I'll try to keep them very brief. I've entitled my concern as doing the right thing. Daily our lives are being artificially made worse, artificially and intentionally made worse. This is a great opportunity for this council to do the job for which you were voted in to do, excuse me, and to represent the taxpayers. In brief, we need to be represented to higher government levels, provincial and federal, not vice versa, which we're hearing far too much of. The top-down is not representative. That is simply delegated or mandated. These mandates we're not happy with. This is where we expect you as our elected representatives to push back. We realize you only have so much control, but you can push back. Directives from provincial governments, directives from federal governments, and especially directives from entities outside of our country are not acceptable. And as already stated, the extreme, highly racist DEI idea that's being promoted by this very council is wrong. We should be pushing back against those wrongs, not emphasizing them. This is an opportunity to show the Yarmouth County residents that you really are doing the job for what you are elected. We need to engage in this self-government. We need to represent the wishes of the people. And we want you councillors, we wish you councillors would do the job for which you were elected. That's to represent us, the people of this county. Thank you very much, councillors.
Thank you very much, Dale. That's the end of the list, and it's also the end of our agenda, so I move that this meeting is closed.